Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of A Taxing Woman, a Japanese movie from 1987 that was directed by Juzo Itami. Nobuko Miyamoto and Tsutomu Yamazaki star. A female tax auditor named Ryoko Itakura inspects the accounts of various Japanese companies, uncovering hidden incomes and recovering unpaid taxes. One day, Itakura persuades her boss to let her investigate the owner of a string of love hotels, who seems to be avoiding tax. But after an investigation, no evidence is found. During the investigation, the inspector and the inspected owner, Hideki Gondo, develop an unspoken respect for one another. Itakura is promoted to the post of government tax inspector, and when the same case involving Gondo reappears, Itakura is again allowed to investigate. So the opening shot of this movie is a bit spicy, actually. It's an older man sucking the nipples of a woman nurse. And so, when the movie first starts, you're like, what is this, But we quickly see that this serves a purpose. The nurse is psychologically manipulating this guy on his deathbed, and while he's in a state of dementia. And she coerces him to sign over assets to some nefarious men. And we spend some time with these con artists during the early moments of the film, and they certainly have a successful racket going on using a variety of shady business tactics and asset transfer tricks to make big profits in real estate. Now, meanwhile, we also meet our lady protagonist, who is, she has a slightly quirky personality and frequently has bedhead. I don't know if you foreign or non-Americans know what bedhead is. It's when you sleep and you wake up and your hair's sticking up and you just roll into work. Well, that's what she does. So her boss is like, you got bedhead again, and she's got to pat her hair down. So she's a little bit of a quirky character, but very proficient as a tax auditor. So we see a few of her other assignments early on. Like she's quietly eating in a restaurant, but also checking on some possible avenues for tax evasion at this place. So she observes how busy it is. She sees there's two different series of checks that are given to the customers, indicating they could be hiding one series of checks for revenue purposes for taxes. And then she goes to a pachinko parlor, marks some money bills for a potential crackdown on underreported revenues there as well. The premise is actually quite interesting. As I talk about it, you're like, man, this sounds like I'm in accounting class or something. But even if you're someone who's not especially fascinated by accounting or taxes or finances, this is actually a pretty fun movie. There are a few scenes where maybe they'll discuss suspicious financial trends or stuff like that, but almost all of the film consists of actual investigation and character interaction. And when our main protagonist and antagonist meet, it's a pretty lengthy scene, and there is some immediate tension when the antagonist makes some underhanded comments to her face. However, A Taxing Woman does have a different vibe when compared to The Gentle Art of Japanese Extortion, which is another Juzo Itami movie that I recently reviewed. This is not really a mean-spirited rivalry between the main characters, more of a cat-and-mouse game. And they do spend a bit of time together during the investigation process, and this Yamazaki guy's character is not so easily caught. He does a good job of attempting to cover up his tax evasion schemes, but he eventually begins to like or respect our main character because she's good at her job. And our protagonist does have to deal with some of the other bad guys who are associated with Yamazaki's character. And they're less nice, but it still proves for some compelling viewing. It's pretty nuanced and fun to watch. This director had a knack for movies like this. On paper, it really should not be this good, but it is. You know what I mean? So, it's just, and the acting is good as well. And for some reason, though, this movie's about 2 full hours long, I believe. But it keeps you in it, somehow, with content that doesn't seem that interesting on its face. So you got to give the director and the actors credit. And I enjoy this. I recommend it, especially if you want to keep digging into these Japanese films from the 80s. And I recommend this. And it's currently available streaming on the Criterion channel, which has a bunch of this director's other movies. So if you want to do an exploration of this director's filmography, the Criterion channel's probably the best place to start. And, I've reviewed a handful of his films already. So if you're interested in Itami, check him out. He's a pretty reliable director. And I feel like if you like one or two of his movies, you'll like most of them, at least during this era. So let me know what you think of this one if you've seen it. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.